Hello, everyone, and welcome back to River City Girls. We have another manga section, which is always fun to see. I believe this is also the one reference we have to Misaka's kind of bow design, which you mentioned earlier when she was, the cutesy girly girl in the other games.
Yep. And yeah,
This,
that's kind of more what she looks like. And this is purely my like rip off of the Akira flashback, childhood bonding sequence. But what's really cool is like a lot of people have noticed, they are actually children voices. My daughter voices Kyoko and Misako, and some of her school friends voice the Mean Girls.
oh, that's cute. That's adorable. Uh, the that flashback is one that I had actually completely forgotten about by the time I got to this point in my playthrough yesterday. So I'm like, it's personal. And suddenly I was so much more amped to hunt down those statues. Um, and those statues are really well hidden, by the way. Like every so often, just to make sure that I don't miss anything on my first run through the game. Like whenever I hit a milestone, like I'm about to fight a boss, I'll pull up a guide and I'm like, okay, what have I missed this time? And inevitably there are like 3 statues that are in really hard to see locations, or they're off screen. In one case, one was hidden like right behind a bunch of trash.
Whoops.
Oops.
Game crashed.
I think that was the
Oops.
only one we had.
Yeah, not sure what happened there.
Yeah, for example, you see the statue right there on the ground outside Habari. I remember initially that was way high up. You had to like wall jump back and forth to get off the top of the
Oof.
screen to get it. So we definitely, where they landed in the end was a little bit more kind than where some of them started, and that was just from lots of playtesting with the team and with other WayForward members over time.
Well, when it comes to like hunting down collectibles like that, I find it's always best to have a mixture of easy to find and hard to find
Yep,
throughout the
yep.
game, so that you're constantly fed just enough to intrigue you to intrigue you into looking for the others.
Yeah,
And
yeah, I agree. And I think really quick, this is like one of my favorite things in games, and I'm happy that we got it working properly here. Is just getting enemies and throwing them to their death in spike pits. It's just always, even in the old River City game, I was just playing with one of the directors, River City Ransom, the other day, and anytime you can grab and throw enemies into a pit, it's just so satisfying.
it is, but at the same time, I never want to do it because I know I'm losing money doing that.
That is true. Yeah.
I was actually about to ask, wasn't that in one of the other Kunio-kun or Double Dragon games?
Uh,
Wait, what?
That either that exact room or a similar room similar to it?
like,
Yeah, I don't remember if it was an exact one, but the Double Dragon games, especially Double Dragon 2, had so many of those like rotating platform conveyor belt things. So definitely, I think we got inspired by the conveyor beltism of Double Dragon games in general.
Now, I really like Hibari as a boss. She's very, very No More Heroes in all of the best ways. But I also like that it really mixes up the mechanics of the game. Because for one thing, you're stuck on one plane. There is no dodging up and down. You have to
Yep.
position yourself to avoid the bullet hell. But I also like that the method of attacking the boss and the boss's method of attacking you is very different from anything you've encountered. The biggest obstacle to beating this boss is that you might not have been using the wall jump throughout the game, and
Yes.
not know. And it actually took me a while to remember that I had it, because the wall jump for most of the game is something that you can use for some like stylish avoidance, but otherwise is not very necessary to fight things with. I
Yeah,
think
I think that's one of the challenges with this game in particular. The first one was we had to put so many systems together and like so much from scratch that compared to River City Girls 2, which was able to piggyback off this, there's a lot of kind of just dipping a toe in things. And so, that's a perfect example. There's just not that much verticality in this game. There's we have the mechanics, we have the wall jumps, and we have some of those mechanics and climbing the fences and stuff like that. But they're used pretty sparingly, just because we had so much to get through. I think River City 2 is a little more comfortable with that, to the point where when you start the game, one of the first things you go through is an actual specific sequence where it teaches you how to wall jump, because that's something that they can lean on a little bit more in the sequel.
Oh, there's the juggle.
Juggled.
You don't want to stand directly underneath the The first phase is pretty easy once you know what she's gonna do, though.
Yeah, really, you just need to anticipate what she's gonna do and then just misdirect her. Like, just get her aiming one direction and run the other direction. The needle, especially, we should have figured out a better way to communicate that, because I see so many people trying to do that, trying to get like perfect angles, when really the easiest solution is if you run to the opposite corner and just have her hit the bottom lower corner. It's a straight shot right back to her. So that's the easier one. But most people, I think just bad communication from us, try to bounce it straight back up to her, or try to do some crazy like 4 bouncer or something.
And then it does what it did just there, and it flies like right past her left. It's actually pretty hard to get a perfect angle from directly below. Yeah. So if Kyoko had just gone a little more to the right and was just like, if you just walk until you hit the wall, it is the perfect angle then.
Don't worry, we get it though.
I gave up trying to use the needle, and I just wall jump kicked her though.
I tend to wall jump just out of impatience, just because if you're aggressively wall jumping, you'll get her down more quickly, and you can defeat her faster.
The other thing about the needle is that it only bounces so many times before returning to her. So
Yep.
if you don't get the correct angle, it'll probably run out of. Why did you tank the hit, Ryan? Why did you do? I think she had the perfect angle there. Why did you tank the hit?
So what happened when I got hit there was throughout this playthrough, I have been trying to get the hang of the parry system. I like that system. It's a little bit hard to do, but I was able to get it to work a few times. I think I was trying to parry the needle a few times to see if that would bounce it back, but I don't think I was successful.
That actually would have been pretty cool, actually, if that worked. Oh well.
Yeah, this is one where we were definitely adding more and more situations and openings as we developed this, but again, because we tried to make this more complicated, because we went for a bullet hell thing, it opened up so many different play styles and so many different ways that people, played the game and reacted to it. So it was a difficult one to predict for sure.
This is turning into a slaughter, guys. Come on.
But as long as
we never said we were good at the game.
As long as you have the power of friendship, as long as you keep helping each other out. And I mean, that's actually something too that, for me, that's something that I did go into the game wanting to be a part of. It is, I didn't want a game. Oh, that was a cheap shot. Yeah, that's just, that was vanishing right as it hit her. That
I
should
thought
be
it was.
fixed.
I thought it was gonna work. I thought that was gonna work.
But I really wanted a game where, it is likely that you're taking damage and then dishing out damage. Like if it, because that's the story of the girls. They're always talking about like, oh, we're getting beat up and we're beating up everybody. If it's a game where most of the people played through and just had like a flawless, no damage run, I think that would, in a way, feel kind of off-brand. It's certainly possible, but, with this in particular, I liked balancing it a little bit more where, you would more frequently do a back and forth as opposed to like you could just cleanly go through and 100% everything, because I think that works better with a narrative personally.
By the way, don't get hit by those like lines that cut across the screen. Just don't, because on contact they do 30 damage and then they juggle you through themselves to do 30 damage on every hit. So you could run through an entire health bar just by getting hit by one of those things.
Yeah, that's the perfect needle thing. So for anybody who's struggling, you wait until she commits to the position and then just run. Don't try and jump it, just run out of the way. You'll dodge it, it'll hit the corner, it'll go straight shot back to her. That was a perfect one.
So to go back to the damage mod discussion, how many red bars is equal to 30 damage?
I think it changes from level to level, actually.
Yeah, it changes because, it depends on what your level is at in terms of the player, what stats you've adjusted, if you have any items that are temporarily boosting you, and then also, whether it's your first playthrough or it's a second playthrough where it's more challenging in Game Plus. So there's a lot of different factors that make it not just straight integers at all.
Yeah, the damage numbers are mostly useful for keeping track of what attacks are more of a threat and what attacks are more useful for just tactical reasons,
Yeah.
Like, it's especially useful for figuring out which of your special skill meter attacks to use at what times, because they all have different damage values, and it's, some of them are good for crowd control, some of them are good for pure damage. Some of them link into other special skills or into other normal moves, and the combat system is actually really complex.
Yeah, and here you see her starting to get down lower a little bit, just because we didn't want to make it that if somebody is just really struggling to either do the needle or the wall jumps, that there's still some added opportunity to kind of get her from the standard mobility as well.
When she's down low like that, though, she's attacking pretty viciously, so that's a high risk, high reward.
It is, yeah. I think we, if we had a little more time, we probably would have nuanced that a little bit more, made it a little bit.
Oh, I'm not saying it like it's a bad thing. I actually like those moments in a boss battle where, if you're really quick, you can take advantage of small vulnerabilities.
Yes.
But you have to be willing to risk that maybe you'll take a punishing hit if you don't make it.
Right, exactly. And there's a fair amount of that with the bosses like Masuzu, the very first boss. You can cut her off on punches on quite a few of her attacks, where she's rearing up and most people run away. If you're just really aggressive and perfect with your timing, you can pop her in the face and knock her out of the punch before she even does some of her attacks.
I didn't know that.
In 2 players, this is kind of a dog pile.
Yeah.
Yeah. But we still have one more cycle to go.
And again, that's all about that ebb and flow. I mean, especially with a challenging boss, and we knew this was one of the more challenging ones, giving players a reward of like, okay, now you just get to wail on her, you just get to make her a punching bag. We're very conscious of like putting those satisfaction moments in for the player to reward them for their hard work and their patience in some of the more challenging areas.
Oh no.
I just wish Habari would. Yeah.
Well, you didn't have invincibility frames, but Ryan did. Oops.
And you can do that, actually. That does hit her, but you need to bounce it twice. We found that when it was a single bounce, it was a little bit too easy to exploit, so that's where we had the shield.
The shield
but
that
the
blocks
shield,
from the bottom. Oh,
yeah,
see.
if you get it centralized enough where it'll bounce twice before it hits her, then it will damage her from straight below.
Yeah, I managed to pull it off a few times, but that angle is really precise, and also you don't have as much time to run away.
Yes. Yeah, definitely safer to use the bottom corners.
I'm just kind of glad I was able to get a dab finish on at least one boss.
I'm gonna end up playing as Kyoko during my new Game Plus because I'm playing Misako in my main playthrough, and it's gonna be Kyoko who fights Hasabe and Mami. So I'm desperately hoping to get a dab finisher on at least one of them. I just feel like that would be the perfect revenge for the flashback,
Yep.
Ah, well. Here we go.
And I love what just a bizarre character Habari was, and that Arc System Works let us put characters like that into the game, because obviously you have characters that are supernatural, like Yamada in all the games always has some sort of like powers and stuff, but she's just bizarre. She's just, I don't even know if she's human. She's just this weird little cartoon character. The way that she speaks, the way she looks, she can fly, she's summoning bullet orb hell and stuff, and it's such a weird character. And I love the fact that when we did kind of really go outside the box on some of the bosses, that Arc System Works was on board for that.
Yeah. I realize this is entirely just my own mental connection and not at all a part of the development process for the character, but my first thought when I saw Hibari was that she was a human personification of that spider boss from Undertale.
Yeah, every it was a Miss Muffet, right? Everybody draws that connection. I don't.
It's the bullet hell.
That definitely wasn't. It wasn't an influence for us. I remember we give a lot of carte blanche to our lead designer illustrator Rem, and so we don't give her too much info. And I think with this one, I just said like, "Hey, let's make like a fashionista, like a fashion designer, and go." And then she would just come up with the craziest designs and outfits for all our characters, and so that's where she took it with her. And then I think once we saw that she had kind of gone for the Black Widow style hair bun, and we kind of leaned more and more into that. But yeah, it's a pretty organic process, and a lot of it just comes from Rem and our other awesome concept artists just really, getting crazy with the designs, coming up with something unique.
Oh yeah, definitely. I love Hibari's design. It's just a mental connection I can't help but make because of the bullet hell element, particularly.
Yeah.
Also, wow, you guys have got a lot of money and you're not spending it.
No, we spend it at the next dojo.
Oh yeah, I'm just saying, spend your money. You lose less of it when you die that way.
Very risky, yeah.
Yeah, we kind of learned that a little late. It's, as I said, we're familiar with the other beat 'em ups, and it's, you don't get to see shops in a lot of them.
Yeah, and that's one of the things that we were definitely able to improve when we hit River City 2, because we added the hideouts, and so now you can basically opt to not lose all of your money when you fail. If you want to just kind of like go back and regroup a little bit, here you lose regardless of what option you do. Either you're continuing or quitting.
Oh, what? You can bank your money like in Earthbound or something?
Basically, you can say, like, I want to continue the adventure and do a money loss like River City 1, or you can say, no, I don't want to lose all that money. Take me back to my hideout, which is the last kind of place that you've found throughout town, very much like kind of the hideouts in like a Grand Theft Auto game. And I believe you won't have a money loss in that case, and you just have to backtrack a little bit, so it leaves it up to the player. And if you do definitely have over $1,000, you're going to want to opt for going back to your hideout and trying again.
Oh yeah, that's actually a nice choice to put in the player's hands. They can either lose money in exchange for progress, or they can lose progress in exchange for money. All right.
That was a very timely level.
One of the little minor details that I loved our VFX crew did for these guys, he looks like Schwarzenegger. His name's Abore. He's from Double Dragon 2 and a bunch of other stuff. But when they get dazed, instead of having little
Arnold
stars,
sound.
they have the binary, the 1 and 0 binary numbers floating around.
Oh yeah, I was.
Oh, the
wondering
Arnold
what
sound. Yeah, the Arnold VO was actually by Bannon Rudis, the AD on this game and director on River City 2. In fact, a lot of the standard enemies are his voice or my voice or Colleen, the producer on River City 2. Is a lot of just kind of the staff doing it, because I think we had not recorded as much with the professional group of actors that we use for all the main VO, and then we were like, oh man, we need a bunch of enemy VO, so we each kind of took a couple characters. And Bannon really has a fantastic voice. He voices the bad cops here and the Schwarzenegger, Abore characters, and a few others. But that was fun.
yeah. Yes, it was. I have a question. Not being familiar with these games myself, with the series and Double Dragon and all, was enemy recruiting an element in previous games, or was that something that got added here?
Not that I'm aware of. I haven't played through all of them, so there might be some element in it, but it was more, I know when we were talking about it, I know Bannon, I believe, took a lot of influence from like the Marvel Capcom games where you have kind of the striker call-in characters. We had similar stuff on like our Flash GBA game where you could call in the heroes, although you didn't recruit them, you just had them from the beginning. And then I really loved, and I cited when we were planning out this stuff, there's a Treasure game developed by Treasure on GBA of Tiny Toons, where they had those kind of striker characters. You call them in, but rather than just doing a bunch of damage and vanishing, they were vulnerable. They were there, and you could actually, they could lose their health and they could die. And so I love that kind of aspect of like, oh, you have like a vulnerable call-in character. So I think all of that sort of congealed to being how the recruits work here. And of course here we have Marion Kelly is our shopkeeper. This was again the reason she has crazy abs was just our illustrator designer Rem saying, yeah, she gets punched in the gut in all the Double Dragon games. So how about she just has like has built up this abs of steel so that it doesn't damage her anymore. And people loved her so much they were literally writing articles just on that one shopkeeper to the point where eventually now she's a playable character in River City too.
Wait, isn't she like the character who gets rescued in Double Dragon Neon?
Yep, she's typically the damsel in distress, and now she's doing her own rescuing.
Yeah, because I just found that I had Double Dragon Neon in my Steam library all along, and I didn't remember that I'd bought it, so I was going through the summary for that, and I'm like, oh, wait, that name sounds familiar. Huh. Where have I heard that before? Okay.